Hi, this is Tamika with Create a Generational Love Cycle. And today is April the 11th, 2022. And I don't know about you, but we are under a winter storm advisory. And so parts of Oregon have already received snow. We're off the coast, and I don't know if you know, but it stays wet here. And so we've received plenty of rain. The mountains behind us have actually captured the snow. So I am pretty happy thus far, if you will, because I've lived in Missouri, I've lived in Illinois, Ohio, and when the newscasters, the weather forecast is usually snow, then we get snow. And so I am very happy to either way, receive it or not receive it. I am happy when it's not wet, when it's not snowing. I am happy that the roads are not full of snow. And when it is snowing, I'm happy my children get to see and play in some snow and I get to see it. I always would say, the snow is beautiful, but I don't want to be out there driving in it. So anyway, I am going to start today's podcast with another one of my mother's life principles. And if you've been listening to this podcast since the beginning of January, I've been sharing them. So I'm actually on my 13th one. And it was over the Thanksgiving Christmas break, is when I said, you know what? I'm going to start off this year, or I should start off this year, talking about those words of wisdom that I received from my mother. I truly believe that they helped me to heal. They helped me to see that pain was not about me, that it was often something within that person. And over time, I began to learn a little bit more about the generational cycle of pain. And so, of course, I did not call this podcast the generational breaking the generational cycle of pain. This podcast is more about the opposite, right? As I've said before, Mother Teresa was like, don't call me for war. If you want to have a peace rally or peace, that's where I am. And many great leaders, I'm reading James Allen book, his 21 books. So fortunate, feel so blessed to come across that. I love not only reading about works from minds that were linked, I believe, to the truth, but to read several of their pieces. It really provides I hope, a lot of insight and wisdom into the other person. And I believe that not only has my mother, her wisdom has guided me throughout my life and throughout my journey. Walking along streets filled with potholes, right? Throughout our journey, her wisdom has helped me to miss a lot of those potholes and to not get stuck in them too long. And so I truly believe they are treasures. As we hear, everyone has a story, but it's what we make of that story. Do we let the story define us, or do we take the words, the treasures from that experience and use that to build our foundation, our moral foundation, to help build the foundation of our children and our children's children? Because leaving a legacy is more than just financial. You guys, you see many people who are well off, well to do, and I believe that unless character is honed, right, is built and justified and really glued, sometimes what we have can actually weaken us if we don't put it in its right perspective. It can weaken our foundation when we look for who we are in our money, even in our family, you guys, our husband, our friends, when we define, let ourselves be defined by what I've been hearing today, by what we have. And I was listening to an audiobook actually while I was exercising this morning. I know it's going off a little bit, but I'm going to go back on to my mother's principle because it still has to do with principles, with what we use to define ourselves, to guide our life, that it can help us to weather many storms. But anyway, I was listening to, and Henry Nowen, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He was a pastor, evidently a spiritual teacher, and he's no longer with us on earth. But listening to him and how we define ourselves. And I was going to start this off with, often we think principles are standards to live by imprison us. And to me, it doesn't imprison us. There was a time when I thought it didn't, then I thought it did, but they help us to stay out of a lot of trouble. They help us to stay youthful. They help us to have a peace of mind. Peace of mind. They help us to have that internal peace, to shut off the cortisol induced stress cycle that we could start within ourselves and in our environment. That it gives you the rest at night when you clear your mind and you clear your heart, when you trust in the unknown, when you forgive others of the perceived wrongs that they have done because of their state of being, because of their pain that they may have projected onto you. And as I've mentioned before in my podcast, that I experienced that generational cycle of pain. When I told on my father, and the feedback that I got was that I was the one that was wrong. And somehow those seeds of doubt planted in my subconscious mind. I allowed them to plant because when I went inward, that's when they came inward too, right? But even though I came out and said, no, I was right, somehow some seeds of doubt, just through questioning myself, made its way, and even I think over the years, not having our father in our life, I started to question that. But um, what I've learned is that pain can make you do some things that are not right. Pain can put blinders on your eyes. Pain, when we project it on others, can make us feel that we're powerful, but we're not. We have weakness within our foundation because we've allowed pain to transform us into someone we're not. Love is patient, it is kind, it remembers no wrongs, and it rejoices in the truth. And the truth is that everything has a purpose, that every life has meaning and purpose. And no one has the right to tell you otherwise. And even if they do tell you, your life means something. And my mother's words of wisdom that she shared with us, giving from the heart and expecting nothing in return, nip things in the bud, don't let things get out of hand. You don't have to do anything to anybody. There is a just universe. As long as people have tongues, they will talk. You can't stop people from talking. That you live another day, that regardless of what you've been through, you never know what tomorrow may bring unless you are here to see it. Just because someone experienced something doesn't mean you have to. And what is for you, you will get. You don't have to be greedy or project your pain or dominate others, because there is a just universe and God loves each one of us. That don't wait for others to tell you the right thing to do. Within us is the truth. And if my mom would tell us, if she's gonna do something, if she says she's gonna do something, she'll do it. She will do it. And that's integrity. Then we say we're going to do something. Oh my gosh. And I always would say teach, because I don't know, like you, what I've been experiencing lately is just being taught by the words that come through me. That often life, we get so involved in life and what's going on that we do forget who we are, that our experiences do not define us. If anything, they are there to help bring out the best in us. Whether it's talking with my children, talking with my husband, and often things will come out of my mouth that I'm just like, wow, I needed to hear that. And so I remember as a young girl, I would say, whatever I say to you, I say to myself, because the message is never just about to the other person. And the message is actually more for you too to hear. And so, other principles, number 10, you can't change grown folks. I couldn't change my dad. I knew his relationship with alcohol was not my fault. I knew him not being there was not my fault. He was an adult. There was nothing I could do as a child. Intellectually, I knew that there was nothing I could do as a child that would tell him to stay away from us, right? There was nothing I could do as a child to undo what people were doing to me, undo what I had been through. And so, other than tell the truth, other than, for me, my responsibility is acknowledging and accepting the truth, acknowledging and accepting who people were. My mom would tell us, don't put me on Front Street. You got something to say to me? Then you pull me aside. She wasn't one to yell at us in front of friends and other family members. She often gave us a look. But if there was something she really wanted to say, you would hear about it. And she would try her best to pull you aside. And the 13th one that I'm talking about today is nothing happens overnight. Wars, greed, dominion over others, anger, frustration, birthdays, weight gain, weight loss, everything builds over time. And what I'm working on another book is that everything comes from a seed, from seed. And so the thoughts that have led us to experiencing pain, to projecting pain, did not just happen overnight. My experience with pain did not just happen overnight. That took years in development and generations in development. What my grandmother experienced, what she then projected onto her children, what my mom experienced, what she then taught and projected on her children, my dad, what he experienced, what my other family members have experienced. And so, knowing that nothing happens overnight can give you a sense of power, right? Instead of thinking it, well, if nothing happens overnight, I am powerless. No, you are powerful. Because when you take, for instance, pain, projected pain, and what I've done in my memoir, Compass, is that I learned to pull out the truths of that projected pain, that nothing stays in the dark, that everything comes out, everything. The abuse that I went through, the emotions that I felt, the anger, the frustration, the resentment, the shame, as well as that it wasn't my fault and that I had to forgive others in order to move forward, that I had to acknowledge truths, that when I gained 50 pounds back, several years ago, shortly after my daughter was born, it didn't happen overnight. It was through unconscious eating and just thinking that I could eat whatever I want and work it out and work it off, or that I could eat because I was stressed, caring for two children, working from home, pretty much on my butt for 8 hours a day, that it took time for me to realize that my body is the vehicle for my message, for my truth, and that I am responsible regardless of what anybody has done or said to me. I am responsible for how I treat my body. You are responsible for how you treat your body. That those things that taste good and feel good are not always good for us, especially in excess amounts. That no external food, drugs, alcohol, sex is going to take away the pain that you feel. And that our job, our responsibility is to accept and acknowledge our truths, to accept and acknowledge our emotions, our feelings, to accept and acknowledge the pain that you felt, the frustration, the anger, the fear, the doubt, the resentment, the shame, the vengeance, to acknowledge them and face them because they will always be there. If you drink and you get sober, or if you eat that pint of ice cream, you will still have that pain. There is no medication, outside medication for pain. There is acceptance. And so until we realize that nothing happens overnight and we accept that and we change it by saying, okay, if nothing happens overnight, what do I need to start right now? What habit do I need to transmute, to transcend? What do I need to stop doing right now that's going to help me to break the cycle of pain? How do I need to treat my children? How do I need to treat myself? How do I need to treat others? What boundaries have I let down? What are those weakened areas in my foundation that I need to rebuild? And with what truth do I need to rebuild them with? For me, it was remembering what my mom taught me as a child, what she taught us, the giving from the heart to the Bible and forgiving others. And out of the heart, the mouth speaks, you know. And so everything that we say comes from within. Everything we do comes from within. It is our beliefs, it is the thoughts, the seeds that we have allowed to grow and mature within our hearts and our minds. And that is the only way that we can break the cycle of pain. That is the way, the path of healing from the inside out. I didn't just take, where my mom said about birthdays, she would often talk about nothing happens overnight, like birthdays and, even certain behaviors. But I have gone one step further in saying, this whole world, this whole cycle of pain, it didn't happen overnight. Therefore, we can change it. That there are no quick fixes. The only fix is the truth. And I believe God does not make bad people. I believe that there is good in each and every one of us. That God in the Bible says that he made us in his image. And whether you believe in God or believe in nature, something created us that has allowed us to live. That when we go against the truth within us, that's when we have problems, we have issues. I know my life is not much different from a lot of people growing up a single parent, experiencing pain, rejection, criticism, experiencing disappointment and frustrations. But it's again, what to do with it. Pain can be our greatest teacher, and not to give evil for evil, but to give good for evil, to seek out the best in us and the best in our experiences. You too, all of us, can create a generational cycle of love. It's one day at a time. It requires us to seek the truth, to acknowledge and accept the truth, and to decide with an unwavering conviction that I'm going to live from love. I don't want pain. I want love. I want my children to have a better life than me. And therefore, I take the good things that I had and I expand on those as much as possible. And it is a process. It's a process of becoming the highest version of ourselves. That's what creates a generational cycle of love is becoming the highest version of ourselves. Until next time, this is Tamika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle with life principle I learned from my mother, number 13. Nothing happens overnight.